My name is Alexandra Mitchell, 32 years old, and I never thought my decade-long military career would come full circle at my own sister Stephanie's engagement party. For years, my family treated my service like a consolation prize for failing at real life. That night, when Stephanie's fiancé's commanding officer recognized me and called me SEAL Commander Mitchell, my parents' faces transformed from practiced disappointment to stunned silence. Before I tell you how I went from family disappointment to that moment, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and subscribe to hear more stories of unexpected recognition. I grew up in Westport, Connecticut, in a neighborhood where luxury cars lined circular driveways and summer homes in the Hamptons were standard conversation topics. Our colonial-style house, with its manicured lawn and pristine white columns, embodied everything my parents, Eleanor and Richard Mitchell, valued: appearance, prestige, and social standing. From my earliest memories, the expectations for me and my younger sister Stephanie were crystal clear. We would attend elite private schools, excel academically, while maintaining appropriate extracurricular activities, secure admission to an Ivy League university, and eventually marry successful men from similar backgrounds. My mother often reminded us, a Mitchell woman is accomplished, poised, and above all married well. On paper, I fulfilled the first part of their plan perfectly. I maintained a 4.0 GPA at Greenwich Academy, captained the debate team, and played just enough tennis to seem well-rounded without developing unseemly muscles. But beneath the surface, something inside me rebelled against this prescribed path. While I enjoyed academic challenges, I found myself drawn to leadership roles and physical tests that made my mother purse her lips in disapproval. Stephanie, 3 years my junior, had no such contradictions. She embraced ballet lessons, social committee planning, and maintaining the perfect balance of intelligence without intimidation. She was the daughter my parents had always wanted, while I increasingly felt like an alien who had somehow landed in this family of social climbers. Alexandra has such potential. If she would just apply herself appropriately, my mother would sigh to her friends at charity luncheons, as if my academic achievements meant nothing without the right social trajectory to accompany them. The first major conflict erupted during my senior year of high school. Despite acceptance letters from Cornell and Princeton, I chose the University of Virginia on a leadership scholarship. You would have thought I announced plans to join a traveling circus. We did not invest in your education for you to throw it away on a public university, my father thundered, his face turning the same shade as the expensive Bordeaux in his crystal glass. My mother was more tactical. Darling, think about the connections you will miss. The right university determines your entire social circle. That evening marked the beginning of the disappointment narrative that would follow me for years. Every choice I made that deviated from their blueprint was treated as evidence of my failure to understand how the world really worked. Family dinners became tense affairs, where Stephanie's achievements were celebrated, while mine were questioned. During college, I thrived in ways my family could not comprehend. I double-majored in international relations and Arabic studies, joined ROTC, and discovered my talent for tactical thinking and crisis management. The structure, purpose, and merit-based advancement of military training spoke to something fundamental in my character that country club memberships never could. By senior year, I knew my path forward. The military offered not just a career but a community based on values I respected. When I announced my decision to enlist after graduation, the family reaction was beyond horrified. The military is for people who have no other options, my mother declared, as if I had announced a plan to become a street performer. My father was more direct. I will not pay another dime toward your education if you persist with this ridiculous plan. Our final dinner before I left for officer candidate school remains burned in my memory. My father, swirling his scotch with precise movements, looked me straight in the eye and said words that would echo through years of my service. You are throwing your life away, Alexandra. One day, you will realize what opportunities you squandered with this rebellious phase. Little did he know that his dismissal would fuel a determination that would carry me through the most challenging training the American military had to offer. The first week of basic training hit me like a physical wall. Despite my athletic background, nothing had prepared me for the grueling combination of sleep deprivation, constant physical demands, and mental pressure. On the third night, lying on my bunk with muscles screaming in protest, I questioned every decision that had led me there. My bunkmate, Jessica Martinez, noticed my silent crisis. "First week is designed to make you quit," she whispered. "They want to see who stays anyway." Something about her matter-of-fact tone steadied me. By the end of the second week, I had found my rhythm. By the fourth week, I was helping others push through their walls. The drill instructors noticed. So did another recruit named Diana Ramirez, who became my second ally in this strange new world. We formed a trio that pushed each other beyond what any of us thought possible. Where my family had seen stubborn rebellion, my instructors saw determination. Where my parents had discouraged physical toughness, my commanding officers rewarded it. After completing basic, I wrote my first letter home, carefully describing the skills I was developing and my growing sense of purpose. The response was a thin envelope containing a clipping about Stephanie's induction into an honor society and a brief note: "Hope you are finding your way. Stephanie misses you at her recitals." I folded the letter carefully and tucked it into my footlocker. That night, I ran an extra 5 miles pushing until my lungs burned and sweat soaked my uniform. During specialized training, my aptitude scores caught the attention of Commander Wallace, a stern woman with steel gray hair and evaluating eyes that missed nothing. "Mitchell," she said, after a particularly demanding tactical exercise, "have you considered special operations qualification?" I hesitated. "Women were not eligible for direct combat roles until recently, ma'am." Her expression remained neutral. "Barriers are coming down for those exceptional enough to cross them. Your strategic thinking and physical capabilities suggest you might be one of them." That conversation planted a seed that grew into a consuming ambition. If I was going to be a disappointment to my family, regardless, why not push the boundaries of what was possible? Why not attempt what few women had achieved? The internal conflict was intense. The fear of failure loomed large, especially knowing my family was already primed to see my military career as a mistake. But the possibility of excelling in the most elite units pulled at something essential in my character. When I called home to share that I had been selected for special operations training, my mother sighed audibly before asking, "Is this really necessary, Alexandra? Surely there are military positions that are more appropriate for a woman. Can you not find a nice military husband instead?" Her question crystallized my resolve. I was not looking for a husband. I was looking to become someone even I did not yet fully imagine. The SEAL qualification training redefined my understanding of human limitations. The infamous Hell Week pushed candidates beyond normal endurance, with near-constant physical activity, cold water immersion, and less than 4 hours of sleep across 5.5 days. More than 70% of candidates dropped out. Every fiber of my body screamed to join them, especially during the 36th hour, when hypothermia set in during a pre-dawn ocean exercise. My vision narrowed to a pinpoint, and I could no longer feel my extremities. At that moment, strangely, I remembered my father's dismissive expression when I announced my enlistment. The memory sparked something like fury, a warmth that spread from my core outward. I would not quit. I would not validate his low expectations. "Keep moving, Mitchell," I muttered through chattering teeth, and somehow my legs obeyed. When I completed the qualification course, as one of only 3 women in our group, the transformation was profound. I stood straighter. I spoke with quiet authority. I had proven something essential to myself that no family validation could have provided. My first command came 18 months later, a small tactical team with specialized language capabilities. The weight of responsibility for other lives settled onto my shoulders, heavy, but not crushing. I discovered I had a talent for inspiring confidence and making clear decisions under pressure. Our early operations built my reputation as thorough, decisive, and unusually skilled at adapting to changing circumstances. Phrases like "Mitchell's unit leaves nothing to chance" began circulating in performance reviews. Each success felt like a personal vindication, even as the distance between my military life and my family relationship grew wider. By my 5th year of service, I had developed expertise in counterterrorism tactical operations that put me on a specialized career track. My teams specialized in high-risk extraction missions, intelligence gathering in hostile territories, and precision operations, where civilian safety was paramount. The promotion to lieutenant commander came with command of an elite team of 16 operators, all with specialized skills ranging from explosive ordnance disposal to advanced medical training. The responsibility was enormous, but I had found my element. Each mission success built my confidence and the trust of military leadership. Our unit successfully extracted a diplomatic team from an embassy under siege during a coup attempt, earning commendations from the Secretary of Defense. The classified nature of our work meant public recognition was minimal, but within military circles my reputation grew solid. That December I made a rare trip home for Christmas, my first visit in nearly 2 years. I arrived bearing gifts and hoping, despite all evidence to the contrary, that my professional achievements might finally register with my parents. "Alexandra, you have lost so much weight," my mother greeted me, concern and disapproval mingling in her expression. "And your hands are so rough. Do they not have lotion in the military?" My father managed a stiff hug before immediately turning the conversation to Stephanie's new boyfriend, a Navy lieutenant named James Bradley, stationed in Norfolk. His enthusiasm about Lieutenant Bradley's career prospects contrasted sharply with his pointed lack of questions about my own service. "James comes from a military family," my mother explained over dinner. "His father was an admiral, you know, so distinguished." I nodded, cutting my turkey into precise pieces. "That is interesting. The Bradley name is well respected in naval circles." "You know of his family?" My father seemed surprised that I might have professional knowledge he lacked. "I have worked with several officers from prominent military families," I replied, carefully aware of security classifications that limited what I could share. "Well, Stephanie has certainly caught a good one," my mother continued, as if I had not spoken. "They make such a handsome couple. He will likely make commander before 40. I did not mention that I was on track to achieve that rank years earlier. Some battles were not worth fighting. The following spring brought my promotion to commander, placing me among the youngest women to achieve that rank in special operations. The ceremony was attended by senior military leadership, but no family members. I told myself it was the classified nature of my work that kept them away, not their fundamental disinterest. The reality of Special Operations Command meant most of my work remained highly classified. I could not share the intelligence we gathered that prevented attacks, the hostages we recovered, or the precision with which my team executed missions with 0 civilian casualties. To my family, my vague descriptions seemed like evidence of insignificant responsibilities. During a 4th of July family gathering, my father cornered me on the patio. "Alexandra, you are approaching 35. This military phase has gone on long enough. Bradley tells us there are administrative positions that would be suitable for someone of your background." The suggestion that I should seek an administrative role when I commanded one of the most elite tactical units in the service stung more than it should have. "I am satisfied with my current position, Dad." "But what of a family, children? A real life?" he persisted. "My life is quite real," I replied, keeping my tone neutral, despite the familiar anger rising. "It simply does not match your definition." My mother's contributions were equally undermining. At every family gathering, she found ways to compare Stephanie's conventional choices favorably against my mysterious career. "Stephanie and James are looking at houses in Alexandria. Such a lovely community. Do you even have a permanent address, Alexandra?" The truth that I owned a small but elegant apartment in Arlington, that I saw perhaps 60 days a year, seemed pointless to share. In their eyes, a home without a husband was hardly a home at all. My resolve to maintain professionalism, despite personal disappointment, became a core strength. I compartmentalized the family pain, focusing instead on the missions where lives depended on my judgment and leadership. In my 7th year of service, I led a critical extraction of intelligence assets from a deteriorating security situation in North Africa. The operation required precise coordination across multiple agencies and military branches. When an unexpected firefight erupted during extraction, my split-second decisions saved both my team and the assets under our protection. The subsequent award ceremony was attended by Joint Chiefs representatives, but my invitation to my parents went unanswered. I received a text from Stephanie. "Sorry we cannot make your work thing. Mom is planning my engagement party." The contrast between growing recognition among my military peers and continued dismissal from my family created a peculiar disconnect in my life. In one world, I was respected, even revered for my capabilities. In the other, I remained the daughter who had taken a wrong turn and refused to correct course. The operation that would indirectly lead to the confrontation with my family began as many others had, with a pre-dawn briefing and a high-risk extraction plan. An American aid worker and 3 local medical personnel had been taken hostage in a region controlled by extremist militants. Intelligence suggested a narrow window for extraction before the hostages would be moved to a location beyond our operational reach. What made this mission different was the compressed timeline and limited intelligence. We would be operating with minimal ground support in territory where multiple hostile factions operated. The decision to proceed came directly from the Secretary of Defense, with the understanding that failure would have significant diplomatic repercussions. For 48 hours, my team and I planned contingencies for every foreseeable complication. When we deployed, each operator knew their role with absolute clarity. The insertion went precisely as planned, but during extraction we encountered a previously unknown checkpoint that forced a route change. The firefight that followed was brief but intense. My team performed flawlessly under pressure, and we extracted all hostages without civilian casualties. But one of my operators, Thomas Kendrick, sustained injuries that would prove fatal despite immediate medical intervention. The loss hit me harder than I anticipated. Thomas had been with my unit for 3 years, a quiet professional with unmatched technical skills and a dry sense of humor that diffused tension during the most stressful operations. In the privacy of my quarters, I allowed myself 30 minutes of grief before returning to command responsibilities and the after-action reports that would follow any high-profile mission. 3 days later, amid the administrative aftermath and the personal weight of losing a team member, I received an elaborate invitation. Stephanie and Lieutenant James Bradley announced their engagement with celebrations to be held at the Harbor View Club in Greenwich. My presence was requested. My initial instinct was to decline. The thought of performing the role of supportive sister while processing a combat loss felt beyond my capabilities. But something, perhaps family obligation or simple curiosity about the life I had left behind, prompted me to RSVP affirmatively. The weeks between the invitation and the engagement party were consumed with operational reviews and the selection of a replacement for Thomas. I had little time to consider appropriate civilian attire until 2 days before the event, when I found myself in an upscale boutique feeling distinctly out of place among women who shopped as a recreational activity. Something elegant, but not flashy, I told the saleswoman who assessed my athletic build with a professional eye before selecting several options. The midnight blue dress I eventually chose was simple but well cut, revealing shoulders shaped by years of training, while maintaining a dignity appropriate for a military officer in civilian settings. The Harbor View Club had not changed since my debutante days, all crystal chandeliers and ocean views, designed to showcase the prosperity of its members. I arrived precisely on time, a military habit that placed me among the first guests. My parents were engaged in conversation with the club manager, and I observed them briefly before approaching. My mother spotted me first, her eyes widening slightly at my appearance before settling into her social smile. "Alexandra, you made it. That color is quite slimming on you." The backhanded compliment was so familiar, I almost smiled. "Thank you, Mother. You look well." My father offered a brief hug that felt more like a social obligation than a greeting. "Alexandra, glad you could fit this into your schedule. When do you return to your base?" The question was transparent, already seeking the end of my visit before it had properly begun. "I have a week of leave," I replied, not mentioning that I had specifically arranged the time to attend this function. "A week. How lovely," my mother said with practiced enthusiasm. "Perhaps you can help Stephanie with some of the wedding details while you are here." Before I could respond, she continued, "Now, when are you going to find time in your busy career to consider a real future? You cannot be a soldier forever." "I am a naval officer. Mother, not a soldier. Different branch entirely." My father interjected with the directness that characterized his business dealings. "The point remains. Alexandra, when will you get a real career? Something with stability and growth potential." I had commanded men and women in combat, made life and death decisions, and shaped military policy at levels my father could not imagine. Yet in his eyes, I remained unemployed in any meaningful sense. The familiar frustration rose, but years of discipline kept my expression neutral. "My current position provides both stability and growth," I said simply. The arrival of Stephanie and her fiancé interrupted what promised to be another circular argument about my life choices. My sister looked radiant in a champagne-colored dress, her hand tucked into the arm of a tall man in dress blues, adorned with the insignia of a Navy lieutenant. Stephanie broke protocol by using my childhood nickname, embracing me with what seemed like genuine pleasure. "I am so glad you made it. This is James." Lieutenant Bradley extended his hand with the slightly cautious air of a man who had heard stories about his future sister-in-law. "Commander Mitchell." Stephanie mentioned, "You serve." "Currently, yes," I replied, noting his correct use of my rank with mild surprise. Stephanie must have mentioned it despite our parents' tendency to minimize my position. Our brief connection was quickly overshadowed by my parents, guiding the couple toward more socially advantageous introductions. I found myself relegated to the background, a familiar position in family gatherings. The next hour passed in a blur of superficial conversations. I answered polite questions about what I did in the Navy with deliberately vague responses that satisfied social curiosity without revealing classified information. The patronizing nods and quick changes of subject confirmed that most guests viewed military service as a curious detour rather than a prestigious career. By the time dinner approached, I had retreated to a quiet corner near the bar, feeling completely alienated from the social world that had once been expected to define my existence. From this vantage point, I could observe my parents proudly introducing Stephanie and James to their social circle, their body language communicating complete approval of this life choice that aligned perfectly with their values. The Bradleys have a summer home, just 3 properties down from ours in the Hamptons. I overheard my mother telling another couple, "James and Stephanie will be able to join us for the entire season after the honeymoon." The perfect daughter with her perfect choices, creating the perfect life narrative. I ordered another sparkling water and resigned myself to enduring 3 more hours of being the family footnote. The arrival of a senior naval officer was not immediately apparent to me, focused, as I was on maintaining a low profile. Captain Samuel Reynolds entered with the quiet confidence of a man accustomed to command his dress uniform, immaculate, and bearing the insignia and ribbons that told the story of a distinguished career. I observed from a distance as he greeted Lieutenant Bradley with the warmth of a mentor, then was introduced to my parents. My father straightened his posture unconsciously in the presence of military authority while my mother employed her most charming social smile. "We are absolutely delighted with James," she told the captain. "Such a fine officer and gentleman. We have always had the greatest respect for the Navy." From my position, I could see Captain Reynolds nodding politely his expression, revealing nothing of his thoughts on this transparently selective appreciation for military service. James speaks very highly of your leadership, Captain, my father added. Says you run a tight ship. Lieutenant Bradley is an exceptional officer, Reynolds replied, with diplomatic precision. You must be very proud of both your daughters. I understand your eldest serves as well. My mother's smile tightened, almost imperceptibly. Yes, Alexandra is in the Navy too, in some capacity. The dismissive qualifier hung in the air for a moment before my father smoothly redirected. James tells us you were recently stationed in the Persian Gulf. Fascinating region. I might have remained unnoticed throughout the evening had Stephanie not spotted me and waved me over with an enthusiasm I could not politely ignore. As I approached the group, I maintained the reserved demeanor that had become second nature in civilian settings. Captain Reynolds, this is my sister, Alexandra Stephanie, said proudly, either unaware of or choosing to ignore our parents' discomfort. I extended my hand professionally. Sir. The moment Captain Reynolds truly saw me, his expression transformed from polite interest to shock, then immediate recognition. His posture straightened automatically, and to the visible confusion of everyone in our small circle, he rendered a crisp salute. Commander Mitchell, he said, his tone shifting to one of profound respect. It is an honor to meet you in person, ma'am. The formal address and salute to a family member they had been dismissing for years visibly stunned my parents. Lieutenant Bradley's jaw literally dropped as he looked between his commanding officer and his future sister-in-law. You two know each other, my father asked, confusion evident. Not personally, Captain Reynolds replied, lowering his salute but maintaining a deferential posture that was completely at odds with the family dynamic. But Commander Mitchell's reputation precedes her. She commands one of the most elite special operations units in the Navy. My mother's carefully maintained social expression faltered. Special operations. Yes, ma'am, Reynolds continued, apparently unaware of the seismic shift occurring in my family's understanding. Commander Mitchell's tactical innovations have been adopted as standard protocol in joint operations. Her unit has the highest success rate and lowest casualty statistics in the service. Lieutenant Bradley was staring at me with new eyes. You are that Commander Mitchell? The one who led the embassy extraction last year? I nodded, slightly uncomfortable with the attention, but unwilling to diminish my accomplishments any longer. My team performed exceptionally during that operation. Performed exceptionally, Reynolds echoed with a short laugh. Commander, your tactical decisions during that operation are now case studies at the Naval Academy. My parents stood frozen, social smiles plastered on faces that could not quite process this new reality. The daughter they had dismissed as wasting her potential commanded the respect of senior military officers and led operations significant enough to become teaching material. Captain Reynolds turned to my parents, his expression serious. Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, your daughter is one of the finest officers I have had the privilege to serve alongside, if only tangentially. Her reputation for strategic thinking and leadership is unparalleled. We had no idea Alexandra was so involved, my mother managed, her voice faint. The classified nature of Commander Mitchell's work likely prevents her from sharing details. Reynolds explained unwittingly, offering context for years of my vague descriptions. But I can tell you that her tactical decision-making during the Ramadi operation saved my nephew's life. He served with the support unit during that extraction. The personal connection seemed to finally penetrate my father's stunned expression. Your nephew was there? Yes, sir. Along with 20 other service members who returned home safely due to your daughter's leadership. As if drawn by some invisible signal, other military guests began to gravitate toward our conversation. A Marine major approached, with barely contained excitement. Commander Mitchell, Major Lewis, 2nd Marine Division. Your joint operation protocols saved my unit significant casualties during our deployment. It is an honor to meet you. Then a Navy lieutenant commander who had worked with my unit on intelligence coordination. Then a civilian contractor who supported special operations logistics. Each acknowledged me, with the deference accorded to respected leadership, creating a surreal contrast to my family's long-standing dismissal. I watched my parents' worldview visibly crumbling as their social peers, people whose opinions they valued, expressed admiration for the daughter they had written off. My mother's shocked expression gradually transformed to something calculating, as if reassessing my value in her social calculations. Stephanie looked genuinely proud, though confusion lingered in her expression. "Alex, why did you never tell us?" "Most of my work is classified," I replied simply. And when I did try to explain my responsibilities in general terms, there seemed to be limited interest. My father cleared his throat, clearly attempting to process this public revelation while saving face. "We always knew Alexandra had leadership potential," he stammered the statement, so at odds with years of dismissive comments that I nearly laughed aloud. "My mother ever," the social tactician recovered more quickly. "Alexandra has always been so modest about her accomplishments," she said smoothly, placing a hand on my arm, as if we shared a close bond. "We respect her discretion on sensitive matters." The naked revisionism might have angered me in the past. Now, observing their scramble to align themselves with my unexpected status, I felt a strange detachment. The validation I had unconsciously sought for years had arrived, but its impact was not what I had imagined. For the remainder of the evening, I maintained my composure despite the emotional turmoil beneath the surface. Military guests approached me with professional questions and expressions of respect, creating a strange alternate reality where I was suddenly the most significant Mitchell in attendance. My parents hovered awkwardly at the periphery of these conversations, occasionally interjecting comments that attempted to establish their connection to my achievements. Alexandra always showed such determination, even as a child, my mother told Captain Reynolds, conveniently forgetting her characterization of that same quality as stubborn defiance throughout my youth. By contrast, the conversations with military personnel were grounded in genuine understanding of the world I inhabited. We discussed deployment challenges, leadership philosophies, and the evolving nature of special operations without ever breaching security protocols. For perhaps the first time at a family function, I felt seen for who I actually was, rather than measured against what I was expected to be. Between these professional exchanges, I found a quiet moment with Stephanie near the terrace doors. Her expression was troubled in a way that suggested genuine introspection. "I had no idea, Alex," she said softly. "I mean, James mentioned rumors about a female commander who was revolutionizing special ops protocols, but I never connected that to you." The admission that my accomplishments had become notable enough to generate discussion within military circles, yet remained completely unknown to my family, highlighted the profound disconnect between my worlds. "Would it have mattered if you had known?" I asked, genuinely curious, rather than accusatory. Stephanie considered the question with uncharacteristic seriousness. "I think it would have. I always accepted Mom and Dad's version of your choices without question. That was unfair." The simple acknowledgement felt like the first honest exchange we had shared in years. After the party concluded, I found myself following my parents' car back to their home, a decision that surprised even me. The elaborate colonial, where I had grown up, looked exactly as it always had, a perfect exterior that revealed nothing of the tensions within. My mother busied herself with making tea. No one had requested a displacement activity that allowed her to avoid direct conversation. My father stood by the fireplace, seemingly fascinated by the arrangement of family photos on the mantel, none of which featured me in uniform. "That was quite a revelation tonight," he finally said, his tone suggesting we were discussing an unexpected menu change, rather than a complete reframing of his daughter's identity. "For you, perhaps," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "My responsibilities and rank have been consistent for some time." My mother returned with a tea tray, her composure restored. "Darling, you must understand our surprise. You have always been so vague about your position. Out of necessity, Mother. But I have mentioned my rank and leadership responsibilities on multiple occasions. Well, we thought perhaps you were exaggerating a bit, she admitted with a nervous laugh. You know how the military loves its titles. The casual dismissal of years of achievement sparked something in me, a slow burning fuse, finally reaching its explosive. I have never exaggerated my responsibilities, I said quietly. If anything, I have understated them due to classification constraints. My father adopted the tone he used for boardroom disagreements. Now, Alexandra, there is no need to be defensive. We have always supported your career choices. The blatant historical revision was too much. Have you? I asked, meeting his gaze directly. When I chose military service, you said I was throwing my life away. When I made lieutenant, you asked when I would get a real job. When I received my first command, Mother suggested I would be better served finding a military husband. I reached into my clutch and withdrew my phone, scrolling to a folder of screenshots I had not realized I was collecting until this moment. Last Christmas you said my career had gone on long enough. 2 Thanksgivings ago you suggested I lacked the ambition of the Kennedy daughter who became a doctor. 3 years ago you compared my decision to re-enter a war zone to Stephanie's decision to chair the hospital charity auction, concluding that she had the more significant impact. The documented litany of dismissive comments hung in the air between us. My father's expression hardened into defensive anger. We were concerned for your future, he insisted. The choices you were making seemed likely to limit your opportunities. What opportunities exactly? To marry within our social circle, to attend charity luncheons, to measure my worth by the accomplishments of a husband rather than my own. My mother intervened with practiced peacekeeping. Alexandra, darling, you are overreacting. We have always wanted what is best for you. What you believed was best I corrected, based on a narrow definition of success that I never shared. The realization that had been building throughout the evening crystallized into perfect clarity. For years I had sought validation that would never come, because my parents and I valued fundamentally different things. Their respect could not be earned through my achievements, because they did not recognize the metrics by which I measured success. I did not come here tonight to argue, I said, suddenly tired of the familiar pattern. I came to speak a truth that has gone unacknowledged for too long. I have built a career I am proud of, saving lives and serving purposes larger than social advancement. I have earned the respect of people whose judgment I value. That will have to be enough, because I am done seeking approval from people who cannot see my worth. My mother's carefully maintained composure cracked slightly. That is unfair, Alexandra. We are your parents. We love you. You love the daughter you wished I would be, I replied. The actual person I am has never been quite good enough. My father attempted to regain control of the conversation. You cannot blame us for wanting a conventional life for our daughter. The path you chose is dangerous and isolating. It is also meaningful, challenging, and aligned with my values, I countered. I did not choose it to rebel against you. I chose it because it calls to something fundamental in who I am. I stood smoothing the fabric of my dress with a deliberate gesture that gave me a moment to collect my thoughts. Going forward, I am setting boundaries. I will visit when I can, but I will no longer tolerate comments that diminish my choices or achievements. I will not pretend to be someone I am not to make you comfortable. Those are my terms for continuing our relationship. My father's expression suggested he was unaccustomed to receiving terms rather than dictating them. My mother looked torn between social protocol and genuine distress. Alexandra, please, she began, but I had said what I came to say. I have an early flight tomorrow. Thank you for the tea. I walked out of the house without looking back, experiencing for the first time the freedom of having spoken my truth after years of silence. Whatever came next would be on my terms, not theirs. The return to base 3 days later brought a welcome sense of belonging that contrasted sharply with the alienation I had experienced in my childhood home. The familiar rhythm of operations planning, personnel management, and training oversight grounded me in an identity built through years of dedicated service. That afternoon, I met with Commander Wallace, now Captain Wallace, and one of my most trusted mentors. Her office remained Spartan, reflecting her no-nonsense approach to leadership that had shaped my own command style. "How was the family event?" she asked, her direct gaze suggesting she sensed the significance of the question. "Illuminating," I replied. For the first time, my actual role and rank were acknowledged, though not by choice. She nodded thoughtfully. "The need for family validation is a powerful force, Mitchell. Many of us spend years seeking approval from people incapable of providing it. I believe I am finally ready to release that expectation," I admitted. The recognition changed nothing fundamental in our relationship. "That realization is valuable, if painful," Wallace observed. "We all must eventually decide whose respect matters to us, and whose opinions we can set aside." Our conversation shifted to operational matters, including the news that my unit had been selected for a classified deployment that represented the pinnacle of special operations responsibility. The assignment confirmed the military leadership's confidence in my tactical judgment and command capabilities. That evening, a text message from Stephanie appeared on my phone. "I have been thinking about everything. I realize I never really knew what you do or who you are. I would like to change that if you are willing. Coffee next time you are home." The olive branch was unexpected, but welcome. While our parents remained entrenched in their worldview, perhaps my sister and I could establish a relationship based on who we actually were, rather than family expectations. "I would like that," I replied. "My schedule is unpredictable, but I will make time when I can." 2 weeks later, I hosted a small gathering in my Arlington apartment for what I had come to consider my true family, the colleagues and fellow service members who understood the world I inhabited. Diana from basic training, now a lieutenant commander herself. Jessica, who had transitioned to intelligence operations with distinction. Members of my current command team, who had become more than colleagues through shared challenges and triumphs. To Commander Mitchell, Diana toasted, raising her glass. "Who proves daily that leadership is about competence, not conformity." The warmth of being truly seen and valued by people whose judgment I respected reinforced the rightness of the path I had chosen, regardless of my family's approval. A month passed before an unexpected communication arrived from my father. The email was formal, almost businesslike in its opening, but its content revealed an unprecedented vulnerability. "Alexandra, I have been reflecting on our conversation and the revelations at Stephanie's engagement party. I realize I have failed to understand or acknowledge your achievements on their own terms. My dismissal of your career choices came from ignorance and fear, rather than reasoned judgment. If you are willing, I would like to learn more about your work, to the extent security classifications allow. Your mother and I would welcome an opportunity to begin again, with greater respect for the path you have chosen." I read the message several times, searching for the manipulative subtext I had come to expect from family communications. Finding none, I allowed myself to consider whether limited re-engagement might be possible on the new terms I had established. After careful consideration, I composed a measured response, accepting the opening for renewed contact, while maintaining clear boundaries about respectful engagement. The subsequent video call was awkward, but marked by my father's uncharacteristic willingness to listen, rather than pronounce judgment. "The captain at Stephanie's party mentioned your tactical innovations," he said clearly, making an effort to engage with my professional identity. "Are you able to explain what that means in general terms?" For perhaps the first time, I shared the broad outlines of my leadership philosophy and approach to operations planning without encountering immediate dismissal or comparison to more appropriate career paths. The following month brought a similarly stilted but genuine effort from my mother. She arrived for lunch at a restaurant near the Pentagon, with a nervous energy I had rarely witnessed in her typically composed demeanor. "I brought something," she said, withdrawing a folder from her purse. "Stephanie helped me find these online." Inside were printouts of redacted mission reports and military newspaper articles, that mentioned my unit's achievements without revealing classified details. She had highlighted passages and added post-it notes with questions. "I realize I know almost nothing about what you actually do," she admitted. "I have been trying to understand." The awkward gesture touched me more deeply than I anticipated. "Thank you for making the effort, Mother." "I cannot pretend to be comfortable with the risks you take," she continued, her hands fidgeting with her napkin, "but I am trying to separate my fear for your safety from judgment of your choices." "That is all I have ever asked," I replied. Over the following months, a new pattern emerged. My parents maintained contact with cautious respect for my boundaries. My father, whose identity had been built on corporate achievement, gradually developed genuine interest in military strategy and leadership principles. My mother never fully embraced my career choice, but learned to express her concerns without undermining my accomplishments. During a rare weekend visit home, my father made an admission I never expected to hear. "I think I always knew you were exceptional, Alexandra," he said as we walked the property that had once felt like a beautiful prison. "My disappointment came from fear that the world would not recognize that exceptionalism in the path you chose. I was wrong about that." "The metrics of success that matter to me are different from yours," I replied, "but equally valid." "I see that now," he acknowledged. "It took Captain Reynolds saluting my daughter in the middle of a social gathering to make me question my assumptions." The conversation marked a turning point in our relationship. We would never share the easy closeness I observed in other families, but we had established a foundation of mutual respect that had previously been absent. More significant than this family reconciliation was my own internal shift. I no longer measured my worth against their approval. The validation I had unconsciously sought for years had become irrelevant compared to the knowledge of my own capabilities and the respect of those whose values aligned with mine. Leading my unit through subsequent deployments, I brought a new clarity to my command decisions. Without the distraction of seeking external validation, my focus narrowed to the mission objectives and the welfare of those under my command. This clarity translated to even greater operational success and further recognition from military leadership. The journey from family disappointment to respected commander taught me that true success comes not from meeting others' expectations, but from aligning your actions with your own values and capabilities. Family approval, while emotionally significant, cannot replace the deep satisfaction of living authentically. For those of you watching who recognize your own family dynamics in this story, remember that the path to self-acceptance often requires releasing the need for validation from those unable to provide it. Your worth is not determined by others' ability to recognize it. Build your life around the values that resonate with your authentic self, and you will find your true family in those who appreciate you for who you actually are, not who they wish you would be. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment sharing your own experience with family expectations. Have you ever had a moment where your true value was recognized after years of dismissal? Did it change your family relationships, or did it change you? Like and subscribe for more stories about finding your authentic path despite others' expectations, and share this video with someone who might need to hear that their unconventional choices can lead to exceptional outcomes. Thank you for listening to my journey from family disappointment to SEAL Commander.